Hello. Welcome. I'm so glad you are here tonight. My name's Angela. I'm at midmodernmama.com and I am here for a little late night. Oh, we've got a little audio problem here. I'm here for a little bit of a late night journaling session, and I thought I would just go live and show you some of the things I'm working on and what I do when I'm journaling. I journal as a practice. It is kind of a meditation for me. I love it, actually, and I have been journaling since I was probably 10, maybe even before then, in various forms. So I do a lot of journaling in a lot of different ways. I'm an art journaler. I am a writer. I'm a writer by trade, and so I try to, when I'm journaling, I use words a lot, but I also try to use that as a way to stretch my creativity. So I tend to do things like collage and watercoloring. I am not a professional artist, but I do these things because it helps stretch my brain in other directions. And I find it relaxing and meditative and really enjoyable. So I'm going to show you a few techniques. I'm going to do some journaling. This is going to be very kind of slow paced. You are welcome to ask questions. Just put them in the chat and I'll answer them as I go. I'm just delighted that you're here to spend a little time. This should be very fun. I would love, normally when I'm journaling, I have background music on, and I haven't figured out that technical part of this yet and how to do that without breaking copyright laws. So I would encourage you to turn on a little music in the background and have something going and listen. Let me know in the comments too where you're from, what you are up to tonight. If you're sitting and journaling, let me know. What are you doing? What kind of journaling do you do? Are you a big writer? Are you an artist? What do you do? I'd love to know a little bit more about your journaling practice too. If you're just getting started with journaling, I also have some tips for you on how to get started. I know that sometimes the hardest thing, honestly, is staring at the blank sheet of paper and trying to figure out what to do and how to get started. So we're going to start there. How do you get past that blank sheet of paper and get into what you're doing? So I'm going to switch over to my other camera here so that you can see what's going on. I've got the chat up, so if you have questions, let me know and we will get started. So I have been working on, I actually have several journaling projects happening generally at the same time. And I tend to do a variety of different things depending on my mood and what I kind of am feeling like I need. And one of the journaling projects that I have up on my website, and the link is in the comments, is this COVID-19 journal project. We've all been in this together. It's been more than a year. And I feel like if we don't record what we've been thinking and what we've been feeling now, in 20 years, our memories just kind of put a smudge over that. And it's not that we want everything to be raw, and maybe this has been a terrible time for you, and if so, I'm so sorry. And maybe it's been kind of a mixed bag for our family. It definitely has been a mixed bag. There have been things that have been really terrible about it, but there have also been some blessings, which have been really interesting to find in all of this. So I have this, it's a free download on my website. The link, like I said, is in the comments, but these are journal prompts. And if you are new to journaling and journaling is not a thing that you normally do, this is a great place to start. And it starts with an introduction to how to journal. It's 4 pages of questions that you can answer in a journal, ways to journal. But I want to tell you, first of all, that journaling does not have to be sitting down and writing out full, complete sentences for 45 minutes to an hour. That is one way to journal. That is not the only way to journal. And as a writer, I will tell you that is not how I journal. I do all kinds of other things, but I don't generally sit down and write that way. I live in words in lots of other ways in my life. And so, like I said at the very beginning of this, which you can download and print and use any way that you want. Journals can be, a journal entry can be a list, a poem, a paragraph or more, a song lyric, a photograph and a caption, a collage, a painting or a drawing, a newspaper clipping. You could print out Facebook or Instagram posts. It could be a sketch, an illustration, a short story, a letter, a cartoon or a storyboard, a haiku, a memento in an envelope, something that you want to keep, a letter to someone or from someone, a recipe, an infographic, an essay, and the list goes on and on and on. Journaling is about getting your innermost thoughts and ideas out onto paper in one way or another. So these journal prompts and techniques are free to you. They're available for download. I have all kinds of ideas here. My family and I have been doing this together. So I went through and kind of set up the architecture of our COVID-19 journal project. And then my family and I, every once in a while, we sit down and we do something. And my son has taken ownership of some parts of our journal, and he has done a lot of drawing and some writing. We've all contributed to it in different ways. And we have all kinds of journal entries. And my hope was that our journal would be something that is reflective of our family and our family's experience. And I think that's how it's shaping up. Of course, it's not over yet, but it's how it's shaping up. So I started with, regardless of how you're journaling, whether you're doing the COVID-19 journal project or you're doing something different, I really love these Moleskine Japanese albums. That's what it's called. It's from their art collection. The link is down in the carousel below. And I'm going to open this one up and show you why. This was something new to me, and it comes in 3 sizes. I believe this size that I have in my hand right now is the medium size. It comes in 3 different sizes. I have the small size. I'll show you that too. I should have opened this beforehand, but here we are. And what I think is kind of brilliant about this for journaling is that it's accordion folded. So it opens up like this. And it lends itself to all kinds of different ways to journal. You can, first of all, it doesn't have to be open like a traditional book. It can open like this. And you can work on both sides of the page. So you could have 2 very, very long narratives of some kind, whether it's a cartoon or, whatever it is that whatever medium you are journaling in. I really love these books. I think they're so cool. So I'll show you. A couple of months ago, I am a former travel writer, and Italy is my stomping ground. And I hadn't been to Italy in several years at this point, and I was feeling what I call Rome sick. So I took a week, and I took one of these small journals, and I filled it with all kinds of memories and ideas and photographs and all kinds of stuff, all about Italy. Stories that I maybe had never written down or had never written down in that format. I collaged, I used photographs, I drew. I am not an artist, but I drew. And I did all kinds of thinking, and I kind of took it as a little, almost a mental vacation for that week. And I made myself work in it every single day. And so at the end, and I told myself that in that week, I was going to fill this little book, which I did. It took some work. You can see I decoupaged the cover, and then I covered it with Mod Podge, so it's nice and sturdy, and I used some photographs and some other kind of ephemera. that I had around, but this was a great little exercise, thinking about getting into those deep memories of all the times that I've been in Rome, all the things that I am missing about Rome, foods that I'm missing, all kinds of stuff. Stories, photographs of people, photographs of myself, photographs of places, pizza. I went through my photos and just printed them out on my printer. I had some vintage books that I used. I did some drawing. And this is the ABC exercise, which we're actually going to do the ABC exercise in a minute. And some photographs and just all kinds of things. I wrote some haiku. So it was a really fun experiment that I did. And a really good emotional and intellectual exercise. So that's one of the ways that you can use this. And you can journal about anything in any form or format. But sometimes the hardest thing about journaling is getting started. You have all these blank books, and whether it is a Japanese album like this, or a more traditional journal with lined pages, or a blank book of some kind, or a sketchbook, however you are thinking about journaling, sometimes that blank how to start is really terrifying. And that's part of why I put together this. This list of the journal prompts. Here's a place to get started. And if you're not going to journal about COVID-19, some of these ideas are still great. You can still write about your favorite meals. You can still create a timeline. You could still create something that's before and after. There are all kinds of generic prompts in here that you could adapt to whatever you're journaling about, whether it's a city that you've been to and you need to take a mental vacation, or perhaps you're going to record a trip and you're taking this with you, and it's a travel journal. There are all kinds of ways to do this. So that's getting off the page is a really difficult thing sometimes, and so let me show you a good way to start. When I am laying out a blank journal and I'm thinking about what I want to do, especially if I'm focused on a particular topic, I often choose a theme. So I have a COVID journal or Rome or whatever, and I've picked a theme. And maybe it's a theme of family, or maybe it's you're going to record your summer, or something like that. And then I will go through with Post-it notes, and I will just lay out what's going to go into this journal. Now, with a Post-it note, you have no commitment whatsoever. You can always move a Post-it note. You can always take it and do something else. But it gives you a starting place, and it gives you an idea. So, for example, as I was laying this out, one of the fun exercises to do is to do an ABC. And so I laid this out with 3 letters per page for the first couple of pages. And this is a version of a COVID journal. So these are ABCs of COVID. And I'll show you how I played this out in a minute. And then I thought, well, I also want to do a timeline. So in the back, on the opposite side of these pages, I laid out by month. And I'm going to give every month a page. And you could do a spread for every month, or something like that. But every month is going to get a page. And so you can lay it out that way. Now, suddenly, your book is not so blank. And you can look at a whole variety of prompts and choose from a wide range of ways to start. Also in the scroll down below, and I feel badly that you're just watching my hands, but I'm going to show you a couple of things that I put into the scroll below. Sometimes starting with a blank book is too hard. And this is a great book. It's published by Flow. It's in the carousel, and it's called A Book of Time. And I actually took this book apart and turned it into a journal. There are all kinds of journaling prompts in here and things. There are articles. There's all kinds of stuff. And you can see I haven't totally finished this book yet. There are ideas and things to do. You could take a book like this and use that as the prompts and then record in this. Or you can just do what I did and turn this into your journal. And that is another great journaling resource. There is also, and some of you may be familiar with this book, which I have to grab. There's a whole series called The Artist's Way, and that is also in the carousel below. This is the workbook. I also have, I have all of her books, but this happens to be new and unwritten. I have done The Artist's Way several times, maybe 5 or 6 times. Every time I do it, I find something new and different about myself. Over the last, 20 or 25 years. I think I first did it in college, maybe, or maybe even before then. But there are things in here that become prompts. So it's not cheating when you're journaling to use something else to get you going. Because sometimes journaling is simply a way of getting over a block of some kind. So I highly recommend. There are several books that I have down in the carousel and other resources. If you're just getting started, or you've been feeling blocked, or you need some new ideas, those are great places to start. So let's start here, though. I'm opening up my journal, and this is the alphabet prompt, and I have 2 pages, and I'm going to tackle these in keeping with the spirit that I started with here. And you'll notice I've cut out letters out of magazines, kind of ransom note style, and so I'm going to do the same here. And I just picked up some pages out of magazines. I don't know if you have magazines in your house anymore. Some people do. Some people still have newspapers. I tend to read the news online, but I still take a variety of magazines. So we're just going to do a little gluing. And you'll be surprised if you're not into gluing and cutting paper and that kind of stuff. It is really therapeutic and calming and centering. Sometimes after a rough day, I just need an hour of cutting paper apart and gluing it together in a different way on a piece of paper. And that sounds kind of crazy, and maybe it is, but it is, it's really good for my brain and for my heart, I think. So I found this big O on the sheet. One of the things about working outside of what you normally do too, if you're someone who maybe you are a visual artist, and so writing starts to get you into another mode of creativity. For me, it is doing something visual because I live in words all day long. And so I really need to get out of my own way and do something completely different. And so I have found that one of the best ways to do that is to try to live my life as a visual artist. At least a little bit. And it's funny, I somehow did not take an art class from the time I was in 6th grade until my senior year of college. I took a lot of art history classes, but a studio art class I did not take. And then my senior year of college, I was like, oh, wait, I really like this. This is really great. And it made me so sad that I kind of felt like I had missed a big chunk of what I could have been doing. And so I've tried to make up for it as an adult. Maybe you feel the same way. I have really worked. I take a lot of kind of right now, because I'm a mom and I don't have a lot of time. It's like a 3-hour art class on a Sunday afternoon online. But that works so well for me personally. And it just kind of spurs that creativity and gets me fired up. And then I go out and do other cool stuff and connects with a different part of my brain. And I'm so grateful for that. That is one of the things that I feel like COVID has made easier, is being able to do online classes, not just for kids at school, but for kind of everything. And that has been really great. So, let's see. I had not found a Q yet in all of this. Let's see. I have a P here. Actually, I have this R that I'm going to turn into a P because it's a little bit bigger. So, while I'm cutting and pasting, what are you working on? I would love to know. Let me know in the chat. Are you sitting here journaling too? Are you thinking about starting journaling? Are you just looking for something calming and relaxing to watch? Maybe it's late at night where you are. It's not early here, I will tell you. And when do you journal? That's another question I have for you. Martha G, thank you so much for following. I really appreciate that. I need all the followers I can get. And one of the great things about following, just so you know, is that you should get notifications when I go live then too. So if this is something that's interesting to you, you should get some notifications. Okay, so I turned that R into a P here. Sort of looks like a P. And I don't have a Q yet, but I can come back, or I could just write a Q in. This is, just so you know, this is in the scroll down below too. This is my all-time favorite glue. I told you I've spent a lot of time in Italy. This is this fantastic Italian glue. I absolutely love it, and I wish you could smell it. Hold it up so you can smell. It smells like almonds. It is so lovely. It's acid-free. It is a really nice glue. It is not easily found in the U.S. It's actually hard to find, but Amazon is one of the places where you can buy it. And I literally buy it by the box. But I love this glue. It also comes, just so you know, as a paste, like a good old-fashioned paste. And it's cracked here, but it's still totally good, and also smells like almond. I use this a lot for paper crafting. So then, so that's my non sequitur. Into, here we've got M, N, and O, and so I just recycle that, and P, Q, and R. And I think I'm going to just have to write a Q in, because big Q's are hard to find in type, and I wasn't able to find it tonight. So maybe we'll put a Q in. It's kind of fancy. I have a list down below of all of my favorite pens. I am a big fan of these Papermate flares. They are inexpensive. I use them all the time for journaling and planning. I did a plan with me session a couple of days ago. Maybe some of you were there. I love them. I've used them since my days as a teacher. I probably should have bought stock in Papermate at that point, because I used so many red felt tip pens when I was correcting papers. I was a high school English teacher for a while. But I really love them for doing all kinds of things like journaling and crafting. The one thing I will say about them is that they are not waterproof. So if something were to get wet, it will get kind of smeary. And I've had a few heartbreaks like that, but for the most part, it is not a problem. I just am trying to be very careful about where I keep my glass of water when I'm working. Try to remember that. So I'm just making this Q kind of fancy. I always think Q's are a super fancy letter. When I was a little girl, I don't know if you felt this way or not, I felt like my name was it was fine, but it wasn't fancy because it didn't have an I in it that I could put a heart over. And so I had to learn how to make things a little more special, I guess. So then, now that I've kind of broken the seal on this page. It's not blank anymore. I have letters here, and I can start to fill things in. And this exercise, the ABC exercise, is about putting together words on a particular theme. So in this case, in this particular journal, it's about the pandemic. So, of course, P, we're going to have pandemic. And masks. Let's see. Relaxation. Which has been so important. Some of us have had a little too much of that, and too much family time, I'm sure. But you can go through and just kind of fill in some of these words. Oh, Holly K loves good pens too. I know. A good pen is invaluable. One of the things I've done too on these and these illustrations is that, on these pages, is that I've done some little illustrations too, and I'm not going to do that tonight. But all I do for these, and I'm telling you, I am not a professional artist, you can tell. But sketching hooks into a different part of my brain, and I really appreciate that. So I like to sketch with a Sharpie pen. Sometimes I'll use a pencil first, but usually it's just a Sharpie pen. I'll do the sketch, and then I come back in with watercolors, and I included, this is my favorite set of watercolors. They are so beautiful. It's a Japanese company that makes these. They're fantastic. And I love doing watercolor in my journal. But the reason I'm not going to do that tonight is that it takes a little while for it to dry. And I want to be able to move on and show you some other things. So I thought I would show you just some of my little illustrations. They're just simple line drawings. Nothing fancy by any stretch. But it's about you. This is not art that has to be published. This is not something that is going to hang in a museum. This is just simple a simple exercise to hook into who you are. You could also collage here. And I don't happen to have any pictures right off the top of my head. Well, we could do this. These are, here's some pretty flowers that we could tuck in a corner. I'm going to cut out that lady's leg. There we go. If you have an empty spot and you're not sure what to do and what to put in there, so you could just tuck something like this in here. Or maybe it goes over here. It's actually too big. Maybe it goes right here. And just glue it down, and it fills up a little space, but it also may jog an idea for you later. These are actually, I feel like that's taking up a little bit too much space there, but it's going to go here, and then maybe the O words are written over top of this in Sharpie. I could think about that. I'm trying to think, what is an O word that is particularly appropriate for this pandemic? There. Oh, I could tell you. See, it jogs memories. We have, this is one of the blessings of COVID for me. We have a resident owl. It's an owl pair, actually. I'm just going to write right here. We have an owl pair that occasionally show up in our neighborhood, and that they seem to migrate or have a couple of nesting sites. I'm not sure what's going on with them, but one of the things about COVID, we had our windows open one evening, and we heard just all this hooting, and my little boy started hooting back at them, and they were responding, and it was like one of the most amazing experiences. Like, it kind of gives me chills to think about. It was so phenomenal, and we're having this conversation with them, hooting with the owl pair. So there's an O entry. So I'm just going to take a second to remind you that you can go up into the top corner and click follow. And every time, if you click follow, then you should get notifications every time I go live, which I would love to have the followers, and also then you get notified when I'm doing something else like this. So this is one way to break the seal on an empty page. Let's start with, let's go to another page, and we'll do another fun exercise, another thing to do. So I love, like I said before, I love doing collage, and it's kind of one of those magical moments that I have. And so I actually have, I'll bring it over here, this whole bin of old cards and scraps of paper, and this is what we would call ephemera. It is just stuff that I tend to use for collage. If you don't have any of this, you probably actually do, hanging out in your house. You just have never called it ephemera. But you may have wrapping paper, for example, and stickers or stamps, or any number of things that you could pull together and do collage. And if you really truly don't, then start with saving catalogs or pretty magazines or things like that come in the mail. Pretty pieces of mail. Some of these things in this bin are greeting cards that I've gotten from friends that I save to be able to use them in another way. I have some old books that I have torn up. things like that. So there's all kinds of materials that you can use to collage. And I often will create kind of a collaged base for a journaling page and then use that as a springboard. And sometimes doing the collaging then gets me to the point where I'm really ready to do some writing. And I love these little pieces of paper. In fact, maybe we'll use one. These little pieces of paper, they're scraps of wrapping paper that I've cut into rectangles. And they make great little doors, and you write on one side, and then you have something pretty on the other. So let's see, we've got that. I have these cool labels, which I just printed off somewhere on the internet. I don't even remember that. But they're there. I have this funky piece of kind of lacy paper, which is cool. Ooh, I have this tiny little envelope that came with, I don't know, a gift card or something came in there, and I saved the envelope, so that's something fun. I have, so this is crazy, like I found some old slides one time, so I have slides that are here. I have some mismatched puzzle pieces. It's just all kinds of stuff that you can use in collage. I don't know that I'm going to use all of that today, but it's available and it's in here. I have this really cool scrap of paper that came wrapped around a box, and I like that a lot. Oh, and these are seed packets of things that I've planted in my garden. Maybe I'll start with those. That'll be my starting point. Here's a butterfly. One of the things that I have really, okay, here we go. This is where we're going to start. One of the things I've really gotten into over this kind of COVID era is gardening. Our backyard was a hot mess before COVID, and this is what I mean by that there have been some real blessings in this for my family. We have spent all this time hanging out together and making our backyard a place we want to be. And that has been so fantastic. I feel so lucky. And so let's do a page about gardening and journaling. So I think I'm going to create a frame. And then I'm going to use those seed packets somehow. Looking for, this kind of speaks to me in my garden. I'm curious where you are joining us from, too. Oh, Holly says, finally a reason to feel okay about hoarding all the cute random things I find. Yes, absolutely. I give you 100% permission to hoard cute random things. I have several bins. I really do confine myself to just a few bins. And they're not big bins either. But that's all you need. You don't need a ton of stuff to kind of get yourself going. But I find that this kind of thing, scraps of paper and that kind of stuff, just helps make journaling easier somehow in the end. Okay, so I'm loving this. This has kind of all kind of good gardening papers. This is a scrap of Italian marbled paper too that I bought in Venice. And it looks like it'll cover kind of one side of this, which is good. And I think I might just glue that down. Trim that a little bit so it folds nicely. So maybe we're going to do, maybe I'll do a Dutch door on this. And I have this little glassine envelope, and that is just about the right size to go here. Okay, so I think I'll do that somehow. Maybe it'll go in the middle. And then I have these guys. Okay, so I should show you before I get in too far into this. This is my treasure trove. Make sure you can see this. So this is just a Lazy Susan or turntable for a refrigerator. And I'm pretty sure I linked to it down below because I absolutely love this. And it is just filled with all of my journaling, planning, sewing, crafting, like just a ton of the tools that I use all the time are in here. And I have just used, I had this little pencil caddy and it's jam jars that go together in here because of course this is designed for a refrigerator. So jam jars are kind of perfect for holding it together. So this way I always have glue and erasers and pens, a variety of pens, scissors, you name it, hole punch, all those kinds of things are at hand. And it just sits on my desk and it's super easy to move if I'm going to work somewhere else. But everything is right there and easy to find. Okay, so I think I like this way and it will be easier to trim. And I had a thought about this that maybe, no, I think I'll just glue it down. This is beautiful cotton paper. Venetian paper is so lovely. And it is just such high quality. Anyone else out there journaling tonight? What are you guys up to? It's funny, I did a sewing project the other day and I had somebody email me afterwards and said, you kept asking questions, but I was in the middle of sewing and I couldn't answer. And I was like, well, of course. If you're sewing along, that's fantastic. I'm so glad. So do what you are doing. That is what we're here for. Okay, so I think I put the glue on the wrong side. I mean, on the wrong edge. I'm going to line this edge up because it's a little straighter. Line that up right here, right like that. I use this handy tool called a Brayer. If you do a lot of paper crafting, I'm sure you have one. If you don't have one, get one. It's a fabulous tool called a Brayer, B-R-A-Y-E-R. And it really just helps get good contact with that glue, between the glue and the paper and the other sheets of paper. And I'm going to be unscientific this time. Just trim. So here's another thing I'm going to give you permission for. Your journal does not have to be perfect. It is your journal. No one is ever going to see it. They have no business looking there. And you can be as neat and tidy or as messy as you please. But there is no such thing as perfection in journaling. And I tell you this in part because when I was an English teacher, and I used to teach a lot, I had kids who would just freeze up when it came to starting something new, or, my goodness, I cannot cut tonight. This paper is really soft because it's saturated with glue. They would freeze up when it came to starting something new. And especially when it came to journaling, like that it was going to be, they were somehow going to be judged for it. And we journaled purely as an emotional outlet, teaching them, giving them a tool for as an outlet. And so I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told them. Your journal is your journal. It belongs to you. And however perfect or imperfect you want it to be, that's your business. But be messy. It can be the one place in your life maybe that you are messy. If you're that kind of person, a little bit like me, I will say. Or maybe it is a place in your life where you are really neat and other places in your life you're not. That is completely up to you, but it is your place for self-expression. And there is nothing about it that needs to be perfection. I feel like sometimes we have a tendency to only value, have some sunflower seeds, to only value things which can be monetized. Things, pieces of expression, whether it's writing or pieces of art or something like that, that can be sold. And if it can't be sold, then it has no value. But that's not true. It just simply isn't true. And I think as a society, we have some work to do there to enable people to just simply create, because creation is it's a necessary form of expression for human beings. Okay, so now I have these, and I'm a little stuck about what to do. Maybe I'm going to do this crazy piece of paper. And maybe that's going to stitch them together. So you can see, even though I'm doing a tutorial, this is a creative, iterative process. This is not something that I just sat down and said, this is what we're going to create today, because that's not how the creative process works for me. Anyway. So, something like that, maybe. Ooh, and I forgot I have this lacy thing. And look at this lacy paper. It looks like sunflowers, and here I have sunflowers, so somehow those things are going to need to go together. Definitely. Oh, and I'm going to do this envelope. So maybe we have a composition, something like that. And I like this one or this one better. I think this picks up the orange better, so I think I'm going to go with something like that. And then this is somehow going to be involved. Okay, I have an idea now. So first we're going to glue this down. So this is also, seriously, a scrap of wrapping paper. Nothing fancy. And if you're just joining me, this is a seed packet for some sunflowers I planted in my garden. Also not fancy. And this crazy cute little envelope. I love using envelopes. I tend to save things like this and use them when I am, let's see, when I'm journaling. I use them. Ooh, hey, remember those seeds that fell out? Those seeds will go right in here. And now I have some seeds for next year. But I tend to put envelopes in and see how you just glue it in. And the other way you can glue it in, let me see if I have another envelope here to show you. One of the things, another technique you can do when you're journaling, write a letter to yourself or to someone else. You could write a letter to somebody who's passed away. You could write a letter to your future self. You could write a letter to your child to open in 20 years. You could, there are a whole variety of ways. Put that letter in an envelope, seal it up, and then paste it in with the seal down. That way, if you want to leave instructions, this can be opened in 2051. Or, this person, this is for my mom, and she can open it on her 82nd birthday. Or something like that. You can put that in and just glue it down, and then it's nice and secure. Or it could never be opened. Never to be opened while I'm alive. Or whatever kind of instructions you wanted to leave. So you can glue an envelope in and leave it open like this, and you could then seal it this way. But if you glue it in with the seal down, that makes it even more secure. If you're concerned about someone reading what you've written, or you wanted to write a letter to someone and say some things that you don't think you could ever say in person, they're great. They can be a really great and effective way to communicate, or even just to kind of get some thoughts out of your head. It can feel better. It almost feels like you've told that person what you wanted to tell them, even if you feel like you never actually could. Or, maybe it's a letter to somebody who's passed away, or someone you just never talk to anymore. That can be really therapeutic. So I encourage you, think about that. Think about letter writing as a means of journaling and a way to get some feelings out that maybe you don't feel like you can do in another way. And maybe it's a conversation you feel like you could never actually have in person. Oh, look at that. Perfect fit. It can be really healthy for your brain and your psyche. So these are just scraps, these two strips. I'm not sure how I love how that works, but they're down. They're scraps of this paper that I cut off. I'm gonna wipe my fingers off. They are very sticky at the moment. Okay, so now I think I have this crazy fun printer called a Canon Ivy that it's fantastic. It is super easy. It prints right from your phone. And it prints on sticker paper. So it's super fun. So I am going to go through, I took some pictures this morning in my garden, and I'm going to go through and make a couple of stickers of flowers and things that I have planted. So all you do is put them, you choose the ones you want. Right now I have circle sticker paper in here. And when I did this the other day, I'm going to tell you, I tried to do this in my last live and it didn't work. And I think it was because I had a different app opened at the time, but now maybe it'll work. It's so easy. Oh, and here we go. And out it comes. I love this little printer so much I cannot even tell you. And these little stickers are so great, but it has great print quality. Let's see if you can see that. As they're coming out. It has really nice print quality. They're glossy, and they are really nice stickers, and they last. And it's that fast and that easy. The sticker paper comes, this whole thing could be a sticker. It doesn't come any bigger than this. But this whole thing can be a sticker, or you can get the circle packs where you get 2 stickers per sheet, or there's squares, I think, that are there. This is so fun, and I love this because I'm not a huge fan of printing out photographs on my printer and using them in my journal. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I really do love this. And I don't have to glue them then. They are already stuck on and ready to go. So this cute little sticker is just going to go, I think, right here. And this one is going to go right at that intersection right there. Perfect. And now I've got to figure out, I think this is going to become a little bit of a Dutch door. And I'm going to do that with another sheet of paper. Let's see. I have this ledger paper. I think this will be the perfect journaling page. So if all of this is about my garden, I'll put that ledger paper there. This gives me a spot to write, and I'll make this a Dutch door, and then maybe this is layered maybe on top there, like that. I think that's how that'll work. So a Dutch door is super easy. There are several ways you can do this. In this case, because I want to be able to write both on the front and the back, and if I wasn't doing this as a demonstration, I would do the writing first before I glue it in. But in this case, I'm going to glue it in first, and then I'll write at some later point. So there are a bunch of ways that you can make a Dutch door. You can use washi tape. You can use glue. You can use all kinds of things. In this case, I am going to use glue. So I like the way this deckled edge looks. And it's called a Dutch door because it's like those doors in houses that where you can open the top and the bottom independently. That's called a Dutch door. And so this is kind of the same thing. And you can do a Dutch door up and down. You can do it in a variety of ways. I didn't quite get this corner. So here's one method of creating a Dutch door. But look, so now I have this, and I can write on both sides of this. And I could even do another one here with another sheet of paper. You could put as many pages as you wanted into here. So this is an old ledger that I don't even know where I got it, but I just used the paper. You could stick another one under here, or I have this scrap that's torn. Maybe that could go here, something, or alternately I could print a photograph, a larger photograph. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll print a larger photograph and put that here. And then I will print that photograph so it is this size. And then this I will attach with some washi tape to the top. And I'll just show you now. I'm not going to print the photograph now because I haven't decided which one I will use. But just a strip of I have a lot of washi tape. But just choose a strip of washi tape. I can't decide which one to use. It's not quite right in there. And put that at the top, and then this would lift up and you would see the photograph underneath. Something like that. Well, we have been doing this for quite a while. And I feel like it's probably a good time to kind of wrap up, but that's just some simple journaling techniques. The ABC journaling that we started with, and then a more collage technique, and we could keep going. But I really appreciate the fact that you joined me today. Excuse me. I'm grateful for that. I hope that if you enjoyed this, you will hit like at the top and subscribe, and then next time I end up going live, I would love to see you again and have you here. I have a whole bunch of other lives that are all on my Amazon page. You can check them out. There's sewing tutorials, there's some gardening ideas, there are a whole bunch of different lives there. There's one about how I plan and my planning practice, all kinds of things. So I hope you will take a look at those as well, and be sure that you subscribe. I'm very grateful to have your support. And so glad that you joined me tonight. I wish you all the best. Hope that you are doing well. And I'm here, and I'll stick around in the comments for a couple of minutes to answer any last minute questions. If you have questions about the products that I've listed over there, all of those things are things that I use in my creative life. And I hope they're things that help you as well. So feel free to ask questions. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes, and thank you so very much. Bye.